Made me exercise to get up here. Nice. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Beaupre. You can hang out with me because we've got an exciting Q&A. I know the questions have been coming in hard and fast, which is fantastic. So I'd like to ask all our presenters, they knew their cue, to come return to the stage for a panel discussion. And I'd like to encourage you, the audience, to take part in this by using the Slido app. We talked about it at the start of the forum today. The instructions right there on your screens, on your tables as well. The way this works is we have moderators out there, and what they're doing is sorting and watching all the Slido questions that come in, both from our virtual and from our in-person audience here. Please remember, our experts are happy to answer questions, but will not offer specific medical advice, okay? And Dr. Jordan did have to leave, but now his flight was delayed a little bit, so I'm sorry for the flight being delayed, but we're happy to have you for longer, selfishly. So we will begin that Q&A. I just have to pull out my iPad here and answer some questions. One moment. Technology refreshing on me. All right, we're going to start off with a question here from Bridget. And this one's not directed to anyone in particular, so whoever wants to jump in is more than welcome if you want to start off. And it's, is there a danger of exercising too much in an aging body?
Sounds like Matt.
I think, when we think about that, think about how much pain do you experience and how much pain do you live with on a regular basis. If you don't have pain, be as active as you can. I think we have a tendency as we get older to start thinking that back off. If things get harder, we think we should stop doing that. No, don't stop doing that because other things will start to become harder. So I would encourage lots of exercise. I don't think we like to put limits on exercise.
But I think we're not really worried about folks whose problem is that they might be exercising too much. I think we're more concerned about the folks who haven't even started or aren't on that journey yet.
Yep. I would just say don't get injured. So exercise all you want, don't get injured.
And maybe just to round out the question with one small thought. Exercise, let's face it, it's poison and medicine, right? It's a great medicine, but it's not just older individuals where exercise can be problematic. It can also be problematic for kids who over-exercise and train too much, or athletes. So I do think, from the balance of it, I totally agree that exercising is better than not, 100%. But it should be sort of a friendly approach that you take to figure out where you are, and allow it to be progressive. I think that's a thought that maybe I can add to round out the question. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Okay, this one is I'm going to pick one specifically for Dr. Gable. What was the total bone density increase in the weight training experimental group from their base starting point?
Okay, great question. Yeah, it was about just over a 1% gain compared to a 1% loss over time. And again, we were going to be happy with maintaining bone mineral density, right? Any prevention of bone loss is good. So in the figure I showed, it was about a 1% increase.
This one's fun. I want to know who's going to jump in for this one. Do vibration machines help build muscle mass and thus bone density? Anyone have a thought on those? I've seen them. I'm getting targeted on Instagram for them, so I'm curious.
And I'll just hop in quickly. Yeah. Little side story here, but I did my master's research in whole body vibration training. And I think we might have had one of the first vibration platforms in North America, probably in the early O's, and we were using it with athletes, and we studied it very, very carefully because we wanted to see what it could do for strength and power. And in that population, not much happened, but there is some research looking at vibration for bone. I don't know if Lee's got any further comments on that. not my main area, but
Yeah, I have to say I haven't seen any good evidence supporting its effectiveness for improving bone. The caveat would be if you're not doing anything, doing something is probably going to be beneficial, but it's not giving us the same stimulus that we'd get from bearing weight on bones through strength training or moving.
Anything to add over here? No?
No, I'd agree. I think, vibration, what it might do as you get older is maybe help balance a little bit when you're doing that, but actively doing things is more benefit. I know we'd always like the easy fix, right? Is there something I could just sit on and that will strengthen my muscles? And the answer is, yeah, your chair, but you have to stand up and sit down for it to be a benefit to you. So,
Sit less, do more, right? I love that. This one's a great one. Where can seniors find a personal trainer that understands an aging body in the community?
Yeah, I think there are many excellent personal trainers throughout the community. It may take a bit of searching to find what's best for you. If you're dealing with low bone mass or osteoporosis, there is a program called Bone Fit, and you can find a Bone Fit certified personal trainer, and there's several of them throughout Calgary. So that would be a good first step if you're looking for somebody who knows how to prescribe movements in folks who are having issues with bone mass.
I'm going to piggyback on that one. A lot of these are about working out, and I think that's fantastic. As someone with osteoporosis in my spine, how quickly can I safely increase weight in squats and deadlifts since it seems muscle responds faster than bone?
Yeah. I'll start, and maybe Matt wants to take over. Everybody's going to be unique, so I can't give prescription here. I can tell you what we did in our program. We didn't exclude anyone with osteoporosis, but we had a few folks with low bone mass, but nobody with osteoporosis. But we did 3 months of movement patterning. Leah ran basically a month of teaching folks how to breathe properly and engaging those muscles correctly. And then we added in 2 months of light lifting. So there was 3 months before we ever put a barbell or anything heavier into somebody's hands. So I think probably what's key to understand is with any program, it's going to be progressive, but it always starts light, and it starts where you're at that point in time and where you can build from safely. And that's going to be through having somebody help you out, learning those movement patterns, correcting your form, so that when you do start to add weight, and if you do want to get stronger over time, it needs to be progressive and it needs to be done with effort. So something that makes you feel tired and fatigued, but always with good form. So I would say I'd echo Lauren's comments that it's not a fast journey. It's going to be a slow go.
maybe I'll just add one more idea around this that the literature has been pointing to much, much more these days. You think back to what your mind's image is of somebody who's lifting weights and they're grinding underneath a bar and going to what we call momentary failure. And momentary failure would be that point where you can't lift it by yourself anymore and maybe you need a spotter to finish the movement. I'll just echo that there's more and more research showing that if you stay away from momentary failure, so we call it keeping repetitions in reserve, which means you stop just below where you hit your max. It's actually quite effective as well. So maybe the take-home message is, you're going to learn movement technique. Strength is a skill. You're going to get a good trainer who understands how to lift properly so you don't hurt yourself. That's really, really key to understand. And I think maybe catching up to today's science is you can maybe forget about the days where you were grinding to that very end point with the max weight you could lift. And as Lee says, it's going to be hard, but it doesn't have to be past that point for it to be effective.
Can I add one thing? Because I'm hoping it'll come up. It probably doesn't have to be really, really heavy.
Yeah.
So the trial we were running, we wanted women lifting heavy because we wanted to see what would happen with this really big stimulus. But you can get to that point where you only have 1 or 2 reps in reserve with light weights. You just have to lift them for more. So you can start with what you have, and I know that the idea of lifting heavy can be pretty daunting, so it doesn't have to be, but you can get to that point where you feel tired and fatigued in a lower or medium range as well.
Dr. Beaupre or Dr. Heemstra, any thoughts on that question before I move on?
No, I mean, I think they've covered it. You know, and if you have joint pain in there, you're going to factor in those things as well. But you can still get progressive resistance training by using lighter weights and doing more of them versus thinking I'm going to lift really heavy weights. And again, you're going to try and think about where does it put my pain? If it takes me up over into the higher levels, I'm going to back it off and use lighter weights. So it really is an individual journey in terms of where you're starting and what can you do. But I agree with Matt, you don't have to think, I have to get so I can lift, you know, for Lee, I mean, it was fantastic they could lift so much more weight at the end of it. But you don't have to do that to show benefit. You can, anything that you do that you're doing more than you're doing today is a step forward in your journey to better health.
Yeah, I always tell my patients, if you're going to run a marathon and you've never run before, you don't go run 20 miles your first day, right? You probably do a little walk run for 10 minutes and be gasping for breath. But if you keep on those programs and increase slowly, eventually you can run a marathon. So it's the same thing with lifting. Start slow and start light, and don't build up too fast.
We'll stay with you, Dr. Heemstra. Can you please speak to glucosamine and, I hope I say this right, chondroitin?
Chondroitin.
All right, supplements, both for maintaining healthy joints and bones and for injury rehab.
Yeah, sure. You can. There's going to be a theme here. If you have arthritis pain, there's not one thing, except maybe a replacement, that will help that. There's going to be a lot of things. So losing weight is probably the biggest thing you can do. Getting strong is the next biggest thing you can do. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can use to treat arthritis. And then you can start adding some Advil or some Tylenol, and then you might add injections. And so there's a whole round of things you can use to treat arthritis pain. And if each one of those things helps 5%, you're actually going to get some relief. But we know from listening today what the most important things are, right? So things like, we call them nutraceuticals, so they're like vitamins, and they provide some sort of factors like glucosamine and chondroitin. They're not going to hurt you. So if you're not taking them and you start taking them and it helps you, by all means, take them. But there's no guarantee they are going to help you. And usually things that promise like really great results is usually somebody trying to fool you. So again, try all these things. If they really help you, if you have a magnetic bracelet that you think makes you feel better, it's probably in your head. But if it makes you feel better, wear the magnetic bracelet because it's not hurting you. So that's why I fit nutraceuticals. By all means, try them, and if you feel they help. But the evidence is minimal.
As I tuck my
My
weighted
head,
bracelet at my back, I'm like... For Dr. Gable, how is the use or non-use of hormone replacement therapy in study participants taken into account? If so, did HRT use provide more beneficial results?
Yeah, that's a really great question and pretty timely. So we included women who were taking menopause hormone therapy in the trial. We didn't have very many women on menopause hormone therapy, and so we actually couldn't look to see whether or not there was any added benefit. We know from previous research conducted that, and we also know estrogen is good for bone, but it can help protect bone health. This was sort of the first study that we've done in this work, and we're hoping to conduct a larger trial in future where one of the questions would actually be, do women on MHT receive greater benefit?
Okay, interesting stuff. I'm going to go to you, Dr. Jordan, on this one, and then anyone else can chime in as well. Is HIIT, always popular, polarizing online, but is HIIT a good way to train in combination with strength to gain muscle power?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is that HIIT, I think has sort of maybe think about it like an umbrella term. And so there are ways that you can design an interval program to work on your power. But the important thing to say about power is not getting to that end range of the interval where you feel like you're going to puke. Power is really about the expression of strength with speed. So it's more about going really, really hard for a very short period of time and then giving your body a rest. So it's a little bit different, but you could do that on a bike. So those are some things that I think are maybe a good idea around muscle power training. So think about the intervals as maybe one slice of how we could do power training, but your classic sitting on a bike and going until you're gonna get that feeling like you're gonna puke and working super hard with the sweat and all that, that's not so much a power training modality. Yeah.
And was very popular at one time to
Yeah,
go until puking kind of thing.
100%. Yeah, I think there's, you might say that in terms of I'll talk a little bit about sort of cardiovascular health, but there's a lot of evidence for that low intensity exercise, that aerobic exercise. That's actually coming back, which is nice. The pendulum had swung. This goes to show you about research and science and Instagram, right? The pendulum had swung so far to the one side that all the conversations were that the aerobic exercise was going to be it'll ruin the gains, you got to stay away from it. But that's really shifted back. We're much more aware now of how important that low intensity aerobic work is. And certainly interval training is another way that you can really boost cardiovascular function, cardiorespiratory function. So I think a combination of things are probably helpful there. Yeah.
I see nodding heads over here to the right. So thoughts on HIIT and strength training?
Well, and I think moderate, we all have different things that we prefer to do too. And part of that is motivation. What will keep you going? Do things that you like to do. But I think you have to do a basis. If you only walk, you're probably not going to build your strength the way you want to do as you age. But walking's still great. So it's not one or the other. It's trying to find that happy mix that works for you. But you do need to do some form of progressive resistance training. And getting in and out of your chair is a form of progressive resistance training that you can do. So you need to combine. But I agree with Matt. You can't just do that and then not do aerobics. It's finding that sweet spot that Lori talked about for you to work in. And what's the recipe that works for you that you can keep doing? Because that's the other big thing, is you can't stop. So what do you enjoy doing that will motivate you to keep doing it and keep you moving?
Keep strong, Abel? Yeah, it seems like sustainable. What is sustainable is a theme that I'm hearing come up quite a bit. One of the top most voted questions here is, what do you recommend for bone health supplements? Choices of the best blends of vitamins. I hear laughing, but I think I'll let it go down the line if you want to address that.
Yeah, I'm not a registered dietitian. Neither are any of my colleagues up here. If I could put on my hat of what I would hope my colleague Raylene Reimer would say, and she is a registered dietitian, she'd first talk about how what you eat is important, and you can largely get everything you need for your bone health from your diet, save for vitamin D, which we cannot make here in Calgary naturally at least 6 months of the year. So a vitamin D supplement is something that is important for bone health and probably should be added. And anything else on top of that, you really can get through diet. Through Raylene's hat, she would also want me to outline that probably very few of us are getting enough fiber in our diet. That's really important for gut health and a lot of other things, as is protein, particularly as we age. If you're not sure how much protein that you are getting, there's a few really easy calculators to use online. I think Osteoporosis Canada has sort of like a food diary that you can track what you've eaten for a day or so, and it will let you know how much protein you're getting. We need protein to be able to build new muscle. So if you are not taking in enough energy, and particularly enough protein in general, then you're not going to be able to replace the muscle that is being lost or being broken down. And the recommended amount for that right now is 0.8 grams per kilogram body weight or body mass. That's probably the absolute minimum. So a lot of folks are sort of recommending you get closer to, 1.0 or 1.2 grams per kilogram body mass. It doesn't have to be meat. It can be legumes. There are a lot of different ways to get protein, but I think that would be my 2 cents is actually for bone health. Most of it you can get through your diet if you're intentional.
Yeah.
I'll just piggyback just a couple of little tidbits is that there's some evidence that's come out recently that's showing that as we age, our body's ability to use protein starts to go down a little bit, which builds off of what Lee said, that maybe as we get older, you could see almost as though the body's just not taking it in and assimilating it like it used to, which might be, to further the point, a good reason to ensure that your diet has got sufficient protein. Certainly, the vitamin D is very much low-hanging fruit for lots of Canadians, just because of where we live. The calcium and dairy side of it is also an important piece to think about, which complements as well with the protein side. I think the nutrition is just, none of us are nutritionists, so we have to sort of steer our lane. But I really think the nutrition is so complementary for how exercise helps your body, whether it's inflammation or building muscle and bone. There's a lot to be gained by putting those two together. They are very, very synergistic. Can I say one more thing, and then I'll stop droning on?
Keep going.
There was a couple studies that I use in my class when I'm teaching students, is that the science has sort of pointed to that maybe by the time you hit your 90s, that there's an impairment in the ability to build muscle. So you can still get strength can go up and power can go up because your brain's learning how to use your tissue better. But the idea that maybe the muscles just can't respond the same way. And this study that we sometimes looked at, was, the mean age of the participants was 94. 94. And they had these participants doing 1RM testing at the start of training, progressive resistance training down to 5 repetitions, which is similar to what Lee's study was doing. And they had them supplementing with protein. And it was very interesting to note that in that group, they were able to increase the size of their muscles, even in their 90s. Wow. So it's an interesting angle about how nutrition and exercise are really symbiotic.
How much do the two of you include any sort of nutrition advice or work alongside those guidance when you're working with clients? Because there's a lot of questions coming in on how important is my diet alongside recovery, rehab, and strength training.
Yeah, so we have a nutritionist that works at our clinic, so it's very important to us. I'm going to put another plug in for vitamin D, because we always talk about calcium and vitamin D for bone health. But vitamin D is very important for other parts of your body as well. So there's a huge study came out of Scandinavia that patients who tear their ACL have low levels of vitamin D. So I think it's not just your bones. So if you're sitting there going, hoo, I'm from Middle Europe and I have really great bones, it's not just your bones, but it's other. So we think it's a huge part of recovery from injury and surgery, and we encourage our patients to see a nutritionist and maximize those things. So your body has all the building blocks to heal.
We'll move on to another exercise-related question, top voted one. Is there any research, and I'm going to toss this out to the 4 of you, on the impacts of deep water exercise on bone mineral density?
I don't know.
So I've never done deep water exercise myself, so I can't speak from lived experience. I could talk about, I guess we can talk about swimming in general. Great form of exercise, fantastic for your cardiovascular system, great for your mobility. But we know that swimmers tend to have lower bone mineral density than any other athletes because it's not a weight-bearing sport. So I can't imagine how deep water activities might improve your bone density. So my caveat would be, if you love it, do it. Any exercise is good, particularly for other aspects of your health, but having some weight bearing and strength building work on land is also going to be important.
Yeah, bone responds to impact and weight. So it's hard to imagine that, like water exercise, lots of benefits to it, but to build bone health, we mostly rely on impact. Like we need people to be weight bearing and, through arms, legs, putting some stress on the bone.
Okay, so this one works perfectly then, because it was the next question. Does walking with a weighted vest, another thing that's marketed at us quite a bit, help with bone density? Maybe not building more density, but possibly with help not losing any more density.
I'm laughing because I know it's all over social media. There's been some pretty prominent folks on social media promoting it. If you don't currently have one, do not waste your money buying one for your bones. The nuance is, if you haven't been exercising, if you weren't exercising previously, and now that you've got this weighted vest, it's getting you out and it's getting you moving, that's great. We have zero evidence that it does anything to improve our bones or even maintain bone health. So I will say those are largely overplayed in the media. No good science around it.
Do we agree?
Yeah, no, I think the only place I've seen it with rehab is a way for people who have balance. Often we're doing training for exercises. We'll put the weighted vest on instead of having them hold weights because it frees up their hand. But, so don't buy it. It's not like it's just another tool that we would use for frail women or men to help them do their exercises. But it's not worth the expense, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just maybe add one more thought on this, and I'm taking my science hat off, and I'm just going to put my exercise hat on. I think one thing that many of us find challenging as we age is that activities that are outdoors, like running. You used to love to run when you were in your 20s, and then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I'm not sure if that is worth the cost. I think the idea of using a weight vest to sort of intensify a walk so it becomes more, you get to go outdoors and exercise and you can use a walking modality, that might be where I think a weighted vest can be helpful. Takes a normal walk and makes it a little bit more rigorous.
Mm. But if you have osteoarthritis, I'll tell you, you probably don't want the extra weight because it's just putting more weight on so it very much is you have to balance. Because, with osteoarthritis, we are telling you that when you can reduce weight through the joints, that can make it feel better. So you're always, when you're working with strength, trying to find that happy medium that you can do to try and build strength, but not overweight. So wearing like a weighted vest is kind of like gaining 5 pounds, which might make your sore joints, make you able to exercise for shorter periods because it makes your joints sore. So,
yeah, amplified pressure on your joints when maybe you don't need it. We've got about 2 minutes left, and a lot of these are exercise-related questions. This one may be simple, but feel free to expand on it if you have more to say about strength training. Many people curious about, Pilates and swimming, and do I have to add in strength training alongside all of these things? So the basic way and the top voted question is, how often should strength training be done a week when also doing cardio? Thoughts to the panel?
We would say a minimum of 2, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of say when people really, really hate exercise, okay, 1 might maintain, but, more is better. But minimum of 2 strength training is kind of, resistance training is what I would add. I don't know, Matt, maybe you.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 to 3 days per week on non-consecutive days.
Yeah.
Do you want to add a little bit more?
If I was to add a little bit more, so 2 to 3 days per week on non-consecutive days for the same muscles. So that's actually one thing that becomes kind of fun with resistance training. So once you get involved with it, a lot of people find it engaging. And so you could, let's say, do your lower body muscles on one day and your upper body muscles on another, right? So we always sort of think about it as non-consecutive days for the same muscle groups. Would be the important thing. But 2 to 3 days a week, that's where lots of the benefits get conferred. Were you going to add some more, Lee?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Canada has really wonderful 24-hour movement guidelines. They don't look as flashy as what you might see on Instagram, but they're backed by really good evidence. And although there hasn't been a lot of research that has included women, particularly through the menopause transition, I don't see those recommendations changing. They recommend 150 minutes per week of moderate to vigorous physical activity, so that's anything a brisk walk and above. And then they recommend strength training 1 to 2 days per week, strength building activities. I think that the tricky part is in sometimes knowing what are those strength building activities, what are they going to look like. I will mention that it's how do I fit all of this in? I like to use the word rhythm instead of balance. Wintertime, I probably strength train more because I'm not outside as much. When it's nicer weather, I'd prefer to be outside getting more cardiovascular activity. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this rigid balance throughout the year. It can be a rhythm, thinking about how you're getting it in. And I guess one of the phrases we like to say is, cardiovascular exercise, that is going to add life to your years, but it's the strength building activity that will add, other way around. Cardiovascular exercise adds years to your life. It's really important. We know folks live longer if they're more active, but it's the strength building exercise that adds the life to your years. So they very much complement one another in that sense.
It's great to see, and it sounds like we're very much on the same page. I do have to wrap things up, but I'd like to give people, one last moment for a quick takeaway. If you had to sum it up and you want people to walk away with something today, we'll start with Dr. Beaupré and then work our way down. I know, I'm putting you on the spot, but something you're passionate about or a takeaway for today.
I sit less, do more. Seriously, we are very sedentary as we age. Move, find something that you enjoy and do it, and sit less and do more.
Yeah, find something you like. You're not going to go to the gym if you hate the gym. I hate swimming, I'm not going to swim. So keep moving, vary it, but find things you like to do, because then it's not hard to keep doing them.
Well, I hope the main message was that it's never too late to start. But I think maybe I'll give you one more, hopefully, bit of encouragement that small amounts actually have a big impact. And sometimes when you think about getting back to the gym, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 2-hour workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and all this stuff I need to do. Have your trainer boil it down to, sometimes we call it a plan B, which is like, what does 25% of that big workout look like? And remember that 25% is actually really effective. So small amounts go a really, really long way with exercise.
Yeah, I love all of that, especially it's never too late to start. And I guess I'd say for anybody unsure where to start, and particularly I'm thinking of a lot of the women in the room, we thrive on social connections. Find a friend, find someone who is also interested in doing this. The women in our study, they came, the attendance was fantastic. It wasn't because they necessarily loved the exercise, like it was hard work. They really enjoyed each other's company. So that social connection is huge, and if you can do something called habit stacking, so making your movement also a social activity, I think that's something that will help you keep it going forward in the long term.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much to our panelists. A big thank you to our speakers for sharing their research. I will let you gracefully exit so you don't have to hang out with me while I wrap things off, but thank you so much for all your time, your research, your takeaways. Many that I'll take home. Never too late to start. Sit less, do more. It's all great. Also chunking things into manageable equations. And the social equation, definitely. I like to say my girlfriends and I live in the pain cave, but not actually pain. We just enjoy doing the workouts together. Okay, so if you would like to see more content like this, please stay in touch with the McCaig Institute on social media. They are on X, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you again for coming today. So we are already thinking about 2026. Mark your calendars, Saturday, November 7th, 2026. If you have yet to vote, please open our poll. It's in that Slido app where you were all putting in those fantastic questions. Have your say on next year's topic. You can also complete a survey, which will be sent out next week, so keep your eyes posted for that. And finally, and of course, sign up for the McCaig Institute newsletter so you can know about this Wood Forum first and all other events. Now, here's a fun part too. As we come to the end of our program, we have one last task, which is to draw for our coveted door prizes. She saw me looking for the door prizes here. I've got my handy-dandy organizer helping me out here. So you must be present to win, remember, so don't run away on me, walk away on me, whatever it needs to be. We kindly ask the winners to make their way to the door prize table in the back to claim your prize at the end of the program. So I've got Stephanie over to the left to help me up. Help me up. I've been listening too much about getting in and out of chairs. To help me out and draw these door prizes. Really glad I sold my weighted vest last week on Facebook Marketplace. If you're in there, I'm sorry, but it was a great deal. All right, so we are starting off with the Italian Center Shop, yeah? Okay, I thought it was the Foxtrot. Let's do Foxtrot. We're going to start off with a $250 gift card, I believe, to the Foxtrot restaurant at Spruce Meadows. If you have not been, gorgeous new space, just opened down at Spruce Meadows. Best view in town, personally, I would say. And this one is for raffle ticket number 0178874. Yay, hopefully you got it. Hopefully someone's in the room to come to the back. Yes, there we go. Yeah, wave your hand at me so I know you're in here. I love it. Congratulations. You guys are so nice. Clap for the winners, yes. All right, next door prize up for grabs is a Mercado gift basket. So I'm really making you work, Stephanie. I'm making you work. Everyone's good. Mercado gift basket. Stephanie's pulling the number. Watch your tickets. 0178917. Got you in the room. That's you. Congratulations, front table. Looked astonished. I love it. Just pick one of them. All right. Next one we have is an international Christmas market experience at Spruce Meadows. I go every year. It's so much fun, and it's huge, so make sure you give yourself the whole day to actually walk through everything. And the winner of that one is 0178962. Yay, okay, I see you in the middle there. Congratulations. Next up, we have a relaxation and wellness package, and I believe that is, well, it's a relaxation and wellness package. We all want that right now. It's 2025. Come on through. 0178956. Remember, you have to be present to win, so just go to the back to claim your prize. Next up, we have an Italian Center shop. I love, love, love the Italian Center shop. All right. 0178608. 0178608. Perfect. Back there, you have won a gift basket to the Italian, or rather, I believe it's a gift basket to the Italian Center shop. Okay, so that is all we have for the draw prizes. Remember to go to the back and claim them. Thank you so much to the local businesses that did donate these prizes to the event today. That does include our event today. Thank you to the over 30 volunteers that gave their time. A big thank you to Dr. Donna Wood as well, her family. Yes. A great reminder of why we are all here today, and the Wood Joint Research Fund for enabling us to continue. Thank you to the Alumni Partnership Fund for supporting. And of course, one last round of applause as we exit for all our speakers today. Thank you, and move well.